Hello, this is Hervé from Comic Book Bin, filling you in since 2002. Today we're going to be looking at the Cobra Officer and also the Python Patrol Cobra Officer. The Python Patrol Cobra Officer was released in the end of 2022, while the Cobra Officers were released at the end of the summer 2022. I still have a package left of the Cobra Officer. This is how it looks, but I'm not one to keep packages, so this one is probably going to go to the bin very soon. Design-wise, the Cobra Officer differs from the regular Cobra Infantry or the Cobra Trooper in that the gear is much less bulky, so you can crunch the abs if you want. And because of that, it looks much more like the classic Cobra Officer and even the Cobra Trooper. You'll notice that Hasbro will start using the gear that goes with the Cobra Officer with the Cobra Trooper, well, new versions of that character, such as the Fire Team and even for the Python Cobra Trooper. Now, regarding the Python Cobra Trooper controversy, it's a mix of this guy and that guy, except Hasbro made him a black dude, as we can see here, and the heads are not exactly completely compatible, neither are the helmets, which means if you want to exchange the heads with one or the other, they will fit slightly, but not exactly perfectly. But it's still possible to play with those guys and mix and match to have an army of characters with different colors. As here, I've got a Caucasian Python Patrol Officer. I've got obviously a black Python Patrol Cobra Officer. And finally here, I've also got a black Cobra Officer. You won't notice the blue too much. That will make it not work, but it's just good enough. In terms of build, these figures are excellent. They're beautiful. Just like the previous Cobra Infantry, which we can see next door, just here. But he's much more slimmer and slender. And the gear looks more like it's made of leather. So it's less armor. It's more leather type of thing. More regal in a way. More expensive gear as opposed to combat gear. Most of the parts are reused. The pants, the arms, the biceps, they're reused. The mask also is not a breathing gas mask. It's a regular Cobra mask, just like the old figure. So Hasbro, I guess, redesigned the figures to make them look more like the old guys, which gives them a different look. And it seems that because of this classic look, they want to steer closer to that now. It's up to you as a fan which one you prefer. I like the mix of both, but I do believe that the Cobra Officer evokes the spirit of the classic Cobra Trooper much more, even though I do like the modern Cobra Trooper that we have, infantry, because they're so updated and they really look like they could go to war. They're not just dressed in a t-shirt and sweatpants like in the old cartoon, and you wonder what are they doing there. These guys are good for combat and fighting. The officers too, but they still have that elite look to them. Let's look at some of the articulation. So you can remove the helmet just like you could on the regular Cobra Infantry, and unlike the Cobra Infantry, the weapons don't have a big peg on them, so the weapon fit perfectly. He comes with a leather pouch where you can put his weapon, which is like an AK-47 here, and it's painted, and there is a 0.5mm hole where you can put some gunfire effect in here. Now, something that's important to mention, do not put this weapon in the holster. You're gonna break the little peg over here. It was not meant for that. It was really meant for the AK-47. The AK-47 will fit without any problem, even with the removable ammo. And the texture on this holster is leathery, much like it seems like the boots here are, the arm guards here, they're all leathery. It's really nice. The figure is a bit stiffer than the Cobra Infantry, but that's okay. You can choose to leave the helmet on or off. It's up to you. For most of them, I've got all of them, I've got the helmet on. These figures are really nice. I really like them. So like I said, the head can rotate 360, but also the neck, which means it has a little bit more motion, but not that much. I've seen better motion with other figures than this one. The arms go to 90 degrees. There's a swivel, the bicep. Mine is still stuck, it would seem. There's elbow articulations, and obviously articulation here at the wrist, but also the forearm. So it's a different piece here. This is unlike the regular Cobra Infantry or even the Python Cobra Officer. See, it's only one piece here, so you can't really twist the forearm. Same thing for the Cobra Infantry. infantry. You can't twist the arms, but you can twist the officer's arm. That's a good improvement. That's an additional articulation, and that's good. Because he doesn't have the bulky vest as the infantry, you can bend the stomach. So there is an ab crunch. And as you can hear, there is a ratchet system. Now, I don't like the very polish, or it's matte, but there's a kind of a polished look here to the chest plate. I'd rather have the one like here, which has some grooves inside. I prefer the grooves because it looks like it's a bit more better for defense purposes. This thing looks like this officer could get shot and just die quickly. As you can see with the waist, it's very stuck. But just like most G.I. Joe classified action figure, he can do the hula hoop. He also has very good hip articulation. So like most of them, he can do the Van Damme. Here it's not going to work as well because I've got the knife here. Well, if I remove the knife, which is painted, that's a good thing. Other figures didn't have painted knives. You can see I've got a whole 90, and obviously I've got the drop down feature. Now I'm not going to push too much here, but it is a 90-degree here for the legs. I don't want to push too much because they tend to be very fragile, especially when they have the drop down feature. This one seems to be fair so far. Like I mentioned, you can also put the knife in the holster. I believe whichever side will work. There's obviously swivels at the thighs, double knee articulation, which work quite well. You can't kick his ass, but that's good enough. A very good articulation. I really like this figure. It's cool. Swivels at the shins, boots, and obviously very good ankle, which can also pivot, which helps for varying terrain. For the arms, you have the left to right articulation on this one, but the up and down on that one. They feel a bit stiff, so I'm not going to play too much with them. You know, I'm always careful about not breaking them. So this is one of those cases. I want to be careful with those figures. I really like them. I don't want to break them. He obviously comes with an extra handgun. This one looks much nicer than the one that the Cobra infantry have. It feels like something an officer would have, something like an old German officer would have, as opposed to just the modern Nerf-like handgun that the infantries had, which were probably not as effective. So this is your Cobra officer. You put the peg here. That's it. You can remove the ammo of this one too. There's a place in the back when you can put the extra ammo. There's also a view point here to aim that you can put on the weapon like that. It might be an infrared light, who knows. But you can store this extra piece right here in the back of your figure. The holster, just like most classified figures, tends to fall off easily. I think it's because the center of gravity is so high, as opposed to if it was more in the middle, they wouldn't be falling off so easily. It's a mean face. The Python Patrol Cobra Officer, for some of you it might be the infantry, it's up to you. You make up your mind on this. Has a looser peg for this because the body is not the same. The body is actually the infantry's. That's why it wasn't built for that, so it's much more looser. But the pants, everything else is the same. The boots are just like the officers. The forearm come from the infantry. It's a mix and match. Not exactly sure. It would seem that most of the body of the upcoming Python Patrol Cobra Trooper will be a mix also. I don't quite understand Hasbro. In the past, when they did the Cobra Python Patrol troops way back in the 80s, they mixed up the two figures, and Hasbro seems to be playing with the mix up now on purpose this time by mixing the two figures. So the upcoming Python Patrol infantry trooper will come with two heads, one for the officer and one for the infantry, and they're also different skin tone. So it's up to you to play with those. So this is my whole set for officers, except for this guy, of course. I enjoy those figures. This is the amount that I decided I was going to get for my collection. I'm an army builder, of course. If you want to compare them quickly with other figures, I've got a Crimson Guard. The Crimson Guard seems a bit more regal and taller also. So these are the figures. I enjoy them. And yes, like and subscribe. This is Hervé from Comic Book Bin, and I'll see you next time.